Alex, it's good to see you. I'm excited to talk with you. Okay, so let's fast forward. You said when you and I spoke before, the last 20 years, you've been focusing on symphonies and orchestras marketing, correct?
Yes.
One suggestion that I had was think like a brand.
Uh-huh.
And rather than paying Facebook, bring a millennial Gen Z couple in, give them a couple tickets to go to a show and have them create content, pay them to create content for their own friends, or have them share that experience in their own channels, whatever that is. Number one, right? And so you brought up the cross promotion with restaurants and all of that. It's how can we start thinking outside the box with the communications? Because I believe the assumption is that they're all on social media anyway. And perhaps no, maybe it's just my generation that's on social media and it's not the millennial Gen Zs. They're getting away from that more and more. Is that also
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point you make. And like I said, yeah, they are putting down their cell phones by the time they're 24 and starting to realize this can't just all be instant gratification all the time. And they're starting to feel isolated.
how can we start instituting some of these practices on a more regular basis and kind of shift that mindset or paradigm to crack us out of
Hmm. Yeah.
the old way of doing things? We are
Yeah.
creatives, but at the end of the day, shouldn't we be?
So we have to expand our database to all these. And these groups are willing to work with us. Obviously, we've been doing list trade outs with other groups, but we're not communicating charismatically to those groups. We're not enlightening them. And we continue to think that, well, it's on our website, or maybe we'll do one e-blast for it or something, and it needs to be repeated. People are not aware of that. What's interesting, a lot of things about what you talked about. First of all, kids are willing to invest long term. She bought the season pass for the museum,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And another thing that is interesting about what you said is that she knew that what the price would be. And the pricing is just one basic price. I guess it could be student price is different from adult. There could be some variance to it, but it's not like with seating where you have to make a qualitative judgment about the different sections. Subscribing is a much more complex. Subscribing to a classical orchestra is more complex than going to the museum. And seating is one of those things. When you're buying one ticket, you're okay with just, if I make a mistake, not a big deal. But when you're buying a long-term purchase, now I'm going to be there for 4, 6, or 8 concerts. They don't know the differences between the sections, the acoustics, the sight lines, and everything else. We're not educating them as to what that is, and the pricing, and what's a good buy, and what's subscribing is very complex. That's why I get back to education. To make a subscription sale, to sell a subscription, you have to educate people. She's not getting the word.
No, no. So what I've also heard though too is if we can talk about theaters have said to me, Angela, it doesn't matter how we price it. We've done buy one, get one. We've done every seat is $10. We've done $120. Look at Taylor Swift and the average ticket price for that. People will pay if they feel that they will be getting an experience or a value from paying that. So if the orchestra seats are going empty anyway, why not play around with pricing, number one, so it would be more approachable? But the other thing too that I hear is sometimes they don't want to commit 6, 8 months in advance. They want to have flexibility in being able to say what's going on tonight or Thursday, or and have that flexibility to where it's a more spontaneous decision and
Mhm.
not something that is a commitment that I'm making now in April for the September season.
Yeah, we're not getting people into the sublime context of it, and we're also not communicating what the ticket exchange is to them. Okay, that's the nuts and bolts aspects, the fundamental aspects of subscribing. We're not marketing ourselves well in that regard. We're also not marketing ourselves well into the overall concept of what we talked about with younger people want community. They want what the symphony has to offer. That's why you buy the long-term subscription. And also, it's nice to go with someone, whether it's your mother, whether it's your daughter, whether it's your husband or wife, whether whatever it is, that is more the sublime context. We're not doing a good job of creating their end use for this. And then we're not doing a great job of marketing the fundamental nuts and bolts that you need to do to make a concert 1 year purchase. And then they don't know about the ticket exchange. Single ticket buyers do not know about the ticket exchange, for instance, and other parts of it, and the savings, the cost savings. It's not a cost thing necessarily, although you can use that to sell subscriptions. You're getting 2 free, but you don't want to get too into the weeds with having to discount your product. You want to build the value up of the product
Mhm.
and bargain from, and to sell from a position of strength and not all this discounting. So that, those are parts of it.
So you touched on earlier about experiential. You talked about showing audience. I don't see much about what am I going to get out of going to this performance. I don't know Beethoven's Fifth. I don't know, there's all this speak of classical orchestra or around a conductor. But again, if I'm new to this, just like in sports, if I don't know the team or the coach, if you get into the weeds on that technical stuff, it doesn't resonate with me. Speak to me on what I would get out of going to a concert that's going to make me want to get up off the couch and turn Netflix off and go see.
Well, yeah, showing a person going with their daughter, going with their husband, whatever, showing people enjoying that part of it. It's not even about the music, and because not everybody's a musician and they haven't been brought up musically. My end use, what I find with people is they're going for the person that they're going with, or just to relax, to rejuvenate. If they go by themselves, they're going for that reason. That can be marketed. And who they go with is easily as important. And the betterment of the community. We have a strong symphony. That's the bell cow. That's the bellwether organization of the community. So these bigger things are why you buy the 8 concerts, not necessarily a newfound love of music. It can be. Some people just want to expand their cultural horizons too. Yes, that's a good thing to do. You want to expand your taste in classical music, your palette for classical music, and become more knowledgeable about it. But really, it's the personal thing, Angela. Going
Mm-hmm.
with your daughter, going with your husband, going with whoever it is you want to go with, and having a special experience with someone. That's what counts the most, I think.
Is there an organization out there that is doing it the right way that you see?
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple,
And
maybe 3. Yeah, Atlanta pretty spicy. Atlanta and Minnesota, I notice, are pretty spicy. Utah Symphony and Opera is a group that, but the groups Utah Symphony and Opera. Oh my, do I admire them! And I take some ideas from them. I have 350 ideas, and they're using some of those. They take some of my ideas, like we made it an idea, the itinerary for the evening. I've been using this for 25 years, Angela, showing people how to park. Okay, it's a one page thing. It says dinner at 5:30. Here's where you can park. Here's the different restaurants. And okay, 6:30, whatever it is, 7 o'clock, pre-concert lecture, pre-concert discussion, 8 o'clock performance, and then 10 o'clock, something to do afterwards if there is something. An itinerary for the evening that shows people are starting to use this a little bit. But I've been doing this for 20 years because I knew that nobody knows how to attend these concerts among single ticket buyers, let alone the music. And they said that. Or what was your question? I'm going off on
that's
myself.
it.
What
No,
was
of
your question?
course I was saying, is anybody doing it well? Yes,
I had to talk about myself there, though. Yeah, yeah.
that's okay because I'm taking notes. For if somebody's listening to this today and they want to take one actionable item, what's one actionable item that they can take and start implementing into their marketing?
Yeah, I'll go with one with the sublime aspect of it, of who you go with who you go with being the first thing I do, because I find that people are not that musically sophisticated, and subscribers are, longtime subscribers are, and the people who grew up in the 40s and 50s and been listening to this forever tend to be more sophisticated. But people after that, not so much unless they're musicians. And so who you go with and what a rewarding experience that is. That's one thing I would start with, I think. There's about 300 different ideas I have on that, though, as far as, but that's the basic starting point.
Not so your experience as well working with individual organizations, what is the time of implementation to seeing some of the benefits, fruits of your labor, if you will, coming back to? I'm trying to just give an organization an idea of, okay, we bring in this new way of marketing, new way of talking. When are we going to see results? Is there an average? I mean, I'm working with a firm right now where I'm talking more on it's more donation, contribution, philanthropic giving, and it's changing the way that they are characterizing that the way that they're telling the impact story. It's not about numbers. It's not transactional. It's about what's happening. I call it's not about the performance. It's about the process. It's what their programs are doing within the community in between the community performance. And they've seen that took about 3-4 months to get the staff kind of all coalesced around one direction of communication. And then the last 3 or 4 months, we're beginning to see an uptick in contribution from current donors. And now we're working on how do we get to new donors that haven't been there. So I'm saying it's like a 6 to 8 month span that we can really start seeing a little bit of ramp up. What's your experience from a marketing standpoint from patron or audience increasing?
To answer that, yeah, immediately a jump up because we're not marketing ourselves as well as we can to our present database, the single ticket buyers in particular. So if you come up with a compelling message, right away, you will have a fairly dramatic jump in attendance with this. Yeah, depending on how undermarketed your company has been prior to that, it goes up. Generally, immediately. If you increase your e-blast marketing to make it more effectively, your social media more effective, your brochure more effective, you can do all these things right away and jump sales significantly.
Okay, and to give you a little push or a little, I'm looking for one specific tidbit because I might think that I am doing all of those things well.
Yeah, that's what people said. Yeah,
I'm still not seeing that.
the number is increasing, right? Yeah.
Right. So I work a lot on messaging, right? Mine is all about we've got to reframe our story to resonate, reframe to resonate. And this morning I was going through some notes and I'm thinking, there's short term,
Short term.
there's short term strategies, there's long term strategies, and then what I call no term strategies. And the no term strategies for me, Alex, is if I hear one more time that you should invest in the arts because the arts uplift. So a bra uplift.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You get tired of that cliche?
Yeah, so that is new.
We want something uplifting, yeah. We want something uplifting.
You want something that uplifts.
Relevant.
A bra uplift.
Yeah, and this classical music is not quite as direct, but yeah.
My no term is no more the arts uplift.
No term is like long term, short term. We got to start with the short term first, but then we'll get to the long term. But the no term is just we're just putting marketing out there, and we believe that it's the. But did your numbers increase? Did your numbers increase with uplifting this banal message that doesn't have relevance to real life? Is what you're saying? Yeah. What is a real life benefit of this? And those are the qualitative benefits. This is a blind part of it. That's why we put on a continual series of cultural concerts. This is not just the Rolling Stones or Rod Stewart or Beyonce coming. I mean, those are important too, but this is continuous culture for the community to give us something local, something that we produce, something that has intrinsic value. And that's why we need people to invest in the subscription. And it's not that costly compared to going to see the Rolling Stones or Beyonce. So,
but it goes to what your message is earlier. When I think of the Rolling Stones or Beyonce, I can get a pretty good vision in my head what that audience is going to look like. When my daughter thinks of going to a symphony, she's got a pretty good idea in her head. Who knows why? Because she's not gone to the symphony, right? So where is that coming from at that age, other than what organizations are putting out? And so what I heard you say, and I've asked you multiple times, and you've actually given a good tactic, which is one tip to start showing the audience experience.
The pictures of the audience are so powerful. And yes, you have to put them into the experience, show them what the experience is like. And yeah, they obviously need that. So that right there is a fantastic way to go about this and show people and doing, like one of the things I'm doing with one of the groups I work with is subscriber spotlight. And I get frank and candid opinions from those people. And I ask them, that's classical music off-putting. Is it, the bottom line is you have to have some passion for what you're doing. You have to be, if it's the same, we have to be polite. We have to be classical and respectful of the symphony's mission and the high community standards, obviously. But we have to cut through with a little bit stronger message, perhaps. Just a little bit stronger, just a little bit more expressive, at the very least. Yeah, this what I'm doing with the messaging that I'm writing in my e-blast and social media, elderly patrons love it. The longtime elderly patrons love it, and it's got an eye on for the younger patrons, what I'm doing. And I learned that in radio. The heavy metal hard rock station in Central Ohio there, and then the 25 to 54 female oriented radio, and then the news station was like 45 plus. So I learned how to make a message that could appeal to three different demographics there. And sometimes you'd have to write individual commercials for each station, but as much as possible, we wanted just to write one. So we're writing for three different demographics. And that, of course, is the key, is real marketing, to define your target markets accurately. That's the first part of this. Everything else is just you're writing for yourself. Then we're just writing for ourselves, not for those people. We have to define the markets better. There's 8 basic steps to any promotional campaign in scientific marketing, and you should do it every time. Yeah, but defining the target markets is the first part of it. That'd be the biggest.
100%.
Then you have to come up with, you have to come up with the charismatic message that cuts through too.
Right. And that's what I say is know your audience. In my experience in advocating and lobbying for funding is know your audience. You've got to know the makeup of the legislature that you're going before. You've got to understand political ramifications for certain things. You have to understand who their constituents are. Who do they care about? It's the same formula as of knowing your audience and speaking in terms that resonate with them. Is there anything that I've left out that you wanted to add that I didn't cover?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, well, I think, I think that marketing, I think education and marketing are the keys, and we need to change our approach to youth differently, and we need to approach that education differently. In that, if you have 2,000 people in a high school, like the high school that I went to had about I think it was 2,000 people in it, right? How many people are in the band? 100? And what if every high school had a youth symphony, which they don't? This says another 100 people. How many people are we training to be musicians? I think we need to train people to appreciate classical music. So we have to train them and show them ways to appreciate classical music and the classical music experience better. That would be the main thing. But yeah, we just can't train people to be musicians. We have to train them to enjoy this experience overall. And that in our approach to education needs to be a little bit different for groups. Not just training people how to be musicians, but how to appreciate the classical experience. So that's one thing that comes to mind with that.
And I even think that is also enlightening individuals that the band or sewing or graphic design, what constitutes the arts? I have come across so many lawmakers, for example, who say, I'm not creative. Yes, I support I don't understand the arts. And I've said, if I may, Representative, I'm sure you're very creative when you're writing your floor speech to get your fellow legislators to vote for an initiative that you're passionate about, right? And so we're all creative in our own ways. Or someone even said, I'm not involved in the arts, don't know much, and his wife plays an instrument. So it's these things where to even make aware that arts is around us every day, we just don't necessarily realize that. And it's such a vital part of what makes someone an innovator or innovative or an entrepreneur. And how do we talk about it in terms like that rather than the arts, which is just this nice little precious thing that we put in a box on a shelf. We
So
need
look,
it.
there's been, what was it, Champions of Change study that showed that the children who participated in the fine arts, with 30% of them became community volunteers as adults, whereas kids that didn't participate in the fine arts, only 6% got
Mhm.
involved in the arts. So it's about a nicer community and a stronger, higher quality of life. So it's quality of life is what we're getting at. And we need to understand that not everybody's going to become a musician. Some people are become accountants, lawyers, attorneys, whatever it is, welders, whatever you do, the arts can have a relevant to you. It's what your community is producing. So I think that's what we're getting at. And the other thing, Angela, everybody's they're gonna have to step out of their comfort zone just a little bit. Just a little bit. We cannot have the same pat messaging that we've had since 1955. It doesn't. It can be tasteful and respectful of the mission statement of the symphony and the community. But we're gonna have to step out of our comfort zone a bit, and to get that message across, we're doing it, and you're doing messaging. I'm doing messaging, and it's working. It's working. These ideas, and it can work, and it should. Yeah, I love classical music. I love the cultural arts, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So you have that at heart too, I think, and you're doing it on a higher level with people that are, the governmental agencies. You're doing this with that takes quite a bit of. But you're seeing it with them. You're seeing it with your daughter. You're seeing it with younger people. You're seeing it with the highest levels of government. You're telling me, and they don't understand what's happening inside that auditorium, and we need to uh, get that to them in a way that'll make it seem nice to them and get them to come in.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, yeah, and so we've got a few good ideas out here, and so yeah, that's the overall thing is making the communities a nicer place and advancing the arts.
That's so great.
Yes, yes, you could really renovate a whole city and lead the city with
Mhm.
fine arts, and
So, Alex, I really appreciate this time. It's been wonderful.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, very fun talking to you today. Enlightening for me, and I'm learning a lot.
Thank you. Well, I hope we can do
From
this
you.
again.